everyone. Today we are going to be looking at our next type of transformation, so a change to a shape, and this type is called a reflection. So just like when you look in the mirror, you see your reflection, a shape does the exact same thing. So a reflection is a flip. A reflection is a flip of the image. So when you look in the mirror, you see everything opposite of what it truly is on you. When the shape is reflected, it's flipped over a line. And we call that line a line of reflection. So a reflection is when a shape flips over a line, which is like the axes of reflection. A line of reflection. All right. And that line of reflection is going to be one of the axes there. Okay. So either the x-axis or the y-axis. So a reflection is just flipping the shape over a line. Oops. So for example, yesterday we looked at the shape that looked like this. A flip would be, here's the line of reflection, or in this case, a y-axis. And if this shape flips over it, it is the same shape. It's just backwards. So same spot, same shape. It's just like it's looking at itself in the mirror. That is the line of reflection. Okay, so it flips over the line. Okay, our next we want to look at is to tell how do you flip the line. So what do we do to flip the line? So a couple of things. Let's talk about the different ways that you can know when it's flipped in words. So if it's reflected in the x-axis, the value that's going to change is the y value. So if it is reflected in the x-axis, you're going to start with x comma y. Once it reflects or it flips, you're going to end with the same x value. However, your y value changes from a positive to a negative. So when it flips over the x-axis, the y value is what's changing. If it is reflected over the y-axis, let's use the same words. In the y-axis, that tells us that if we start with x comma y, the new value is going to be a negative x comma y. So the value that changes is going to be the x value. Up here, the value that changed is going to be the y value. So we're going to use this idea of if this happens, then that. So keeping those things in mind. If you see here, it flipped over the y, so reflecting on the y, our x value is what changed. So it went from negative x values to positive x values. So let's look at what this looks like when we are actually graphing. So our first example that we're going to have is a triangle, and we're going to flip the triangle or reflect the triangle over the axis. Okay, so we're going to get our dot plots, or our plot point things, our coordinate planes, and let's look at example A. All right, so example A has a triangle, and we're going to be reflecting. So we're not sliding, we are reflecting. That is the transformation that is occurring. So the very first triangle we're going to start with has A is 1, 1. B is 1, 4. And C is going to be 3, 4. And they want us to first draw this triangle, and then they want us to reflect it over the X. So we're going to reflect it over the X. So let's start first with this red triangle. So 1, 1 is my first dot. So over 1, up 1, and that is point A. Over 1, up 4. So over 1, up 4, over 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is point B. Point C is at 3, 4. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, and then up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is point C. So we'll connect these dots until we have a full triangle here. All right, so ABC is our triangle, and we are going to reflect this on the x-axis. So that means that this triangle we start with here, it needs to be flipped over the x. So here's my x-axis, and up here it said if we reflect in the x-axis, our x values remain the same, but our y values are going to become the opposite. So here I just need to switch my x values. So I'm going to make this flip, and my new triangle, let's flip it in purple since it's the x-axis. My new point A1, x stays the same, y is going to change. So x is 1, and the opposite of 1 is -1. B1 is going to reflect. X stays the same. My y value is going to change to -4. And last but not least, C. My C stays the same, and my 4 is going to become a -4. So notice that the y values are their opposite. Okay, so the y values are opposites. So now we can go ahead and graph this. So point A1 is at 1, -1. So over 1, down 1. That's A reflected 1. B is 1, -4. 1, 2, 3, wait. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's B1. And C is 3 over 1, 2, and 3, and down to -4. It is the same triangle. It has just been reflected over the x-axis. So now you have a triangle that is looking in the mirror, and it's looking at itself backwards. So here's our original. Here is the flipped version. Okay, so when we reflect in the x-axis, all of our y values change. All right, let's go and do another example, but this time we're going to reflect over the y-axis. So when we reflect over the y-axis, we know that if we reflect over the y, our x values are what are going to change, and the y values stay the same. So let's get our next little dot plotty. Why do I keep calling it a dot plot? I don't think that's what they're called. Mini plots. That's the brand. It's a mini plot. All right, so our mini plot here. So example B. Again, we're going to reflect over the y-axis. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw my axis here. There's that, and oh my gosh, my lines are awful. Okay, so on this one, we're going to start with the same exact, we'll do the same points as we did before. So in this one, but we're just going to reflect over. So here we reflect in the x, here we're going to reflect in the y. All right, so when we reflect in the y-axis, that is way off. There we go. I don't know why my stuff's not fitting on the page today. Okay, we're going to start again with the same exact points that we had before, just so that we can keep this the same. So A, 1, 1. B, we had 1, 4. And C, we had 3, 4. Okay, we want to reflect on the y-axis. So that means that we are reflecting from here over to here. Here is my y-axis right here. So my flip is happening from this one to this one. So that means that my flipping over the y values stay the same. The only thing that's changing is your x values. So as we flip, we're going to flip and change only the x values. So the opposite of 1 is a -1. The opposite of 1, again, is a -1. And the opposite of 3 is a -3. Our y values stay the same. We will now create mirror images. So let's start by creating our first triangle here. So triangle, the red triangle, 1, 1. And then we're going to go from 1, 1 to 1, 4. So over 1, up 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then 3, 4. So over 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2. Okay, so there is my triangle, and I need to connect these points. So A, B, and C. And now we're going to reflect this triangle over to the other axis using our new coordinates, or new ordered pairs. So -1, so over 1, up 1. And -1, 4, so -1 up to 4. And C is going to be -3, -4. So 1, 2, 3, up to -4. And boom, I have the same triangle. It's just backwards, like it's looking in the mirror, going this direction. So again, here's A1. Oops, that one's C. C1 and B1 reflected. Okay, all right. It is your turn to do a reflection. And your reflection that I would like for you to do is going to be let's go ahead and flip it over the y-axis. So I'd like for you to please reflect in the y. And your points are A is -4, -3. B, ooh, this is a rectangle. That's awesome. B is -4, -1. C is -1, -1. And D is -3. Oops, nope. -1, -3. So -1, -3. Okay, so your job is to reflect this over the y. So thinking about what that means when we're reflecting over the y, hit pause so that you don't hear me solving this. And then when you're ready, come on back to the Google Meet and check your work. Come on back to the video and check your work. Oh my gosh, Miss Englander. Okay, so if I'm reflecting on the y, that means my x values change. We should probably put this up here. So reflect in the y, that means your x values are opposite. Okay, so down here, we're reflecting in the y. That means that our x values are opposite. So let's start by looking at our x values. We start with -4. So we're going to have a +4. So that just means that all of these are going to now turn to positives. So B is going to be a +4. C is going to be a +1. And D was a -1. It's now a +1, but still a -3. So the only thing I've changed here is the x values. All right, let's go ahead and reflect over the y. Oh my gosh, you would think I could make a straight line at some point in life. For some reason I cannot. Goodness sakes. All right, let's start with this one. -4, -3. So over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2, 3 to -3. And this is A. Okay, B, -4, -1. So over to -4, down to -1, that's B. -1, -1. So -1, -1, that is C. And -1, -3, boom, that is D. So I have a rectangle here. And my job is to reflect this rectangle over the y-axis. So here's my y. We're going to flip it over that. My points are just opposite. So I'm going to be at 4, -3. So over 1, 2, 3, and 4, down -3. 4, -1, so over 4, down -1, so this is A1, B1, 1, 1, so 1, 1 is going to be C1, and -1, -1, 4, what am I saying, -3, there we go, D1, boom, rectangle, rectangle. You can't really tell that this one is reflected because a rectangle is a rectangle, right? But the way that we know that this is correct is the short end is matching the short end, and it's the opposite. Your A and B are on the outside, your A and B are on the outside, so they're opposites. All right, go ahead and answer your essential question. How do you reflect a figure on a coordinate plane? And then put your level of understanding out to the side. Where are you at with your understanding? And then you can come on back to the Google Meet and ask for help if you need it, or you can do your practice work. As always, I appreciate all of your hard work and effort, and make it a great day.